So 11.6 is really about putting everything together and solving some equations. So remember, we have these four steps to use. So we're going to start by using the distributive property to remove any brackets when we need to. And then next, if applicable, we're going to combine our like terms on the left side and right side if there are any. Then we're going to gather our variable on one side and everything else on the other. And then finally, we're going to isolate our variable using division or multiplication. So let's take a look at this example. So in this example, in step one, they've distributed to remove those brackets, which leaves them with the 6x minus 4 on the left. Then we want to gather our x's on one side and our everything else, which is our numbers here, on the other side. Now, in this case, they've decided to subtract 3x from both sides. Note, it's just as legitimate to subtract 6x from both sides, and if you do, you'll end up with the same answer down below. So here they're subtracting 3x, which brings them to this line here. And then we're still trying to gather our x's on the left and everything else on the right, which means that 4 needs to move over to the right. So they've added 4 to both sides to get rid of that 4 from the left, leaving them here with 3x minus 6. Okay, and then last step, they want to isolate their x by dividing by 3. So here they divide by 3 to be left with a single x on the left, and they get their answer of x equals 2. Now, we should actually have one more step here, and that is check. It is always a good idea to check your answer, and sometimes it will even be asked of you to check your answer. So to check your answer, we put in our original equation there, and then every time we see an x, we put in a 2, because we're saying this equation makes sense, it is correct, if x equals 2. So we substitute a 2 in, and if you do the math there, you end up with a true statement of 8 equals 8. So that means we must have done it right. It must be correct. All right. So what I'd like you to do is pause the video and try these next three. And let's do these next three together now. So for A, we don't have to do steps 1 or 2. There are no like terms. There's no brackets to get rid of. So we're going to start with step 3 of gathering our x's on one side and everything else on the other. To do that in this case, we have to add 5 to both sides, leaving us with 4x equals 12. Okay, and now we want to isolate our variable. So to do that, I'm going to divide both sides by 4. And that gives me x equals 3. So I am saying this equation makes sense if x equals 3. So to check my work, I'm going to go back to my original equation here, and I'm going to sub in a 3 for x. So I'm going to have 4 times 3 minus 5 on my left-hand side, and on my right-hand side I have 7. And we end up getting 7 equals 7, which is true. So we know we were right. All right, next one. Again, we don't have any brackets. We don't have any like terms on the left side or right side to combine. So we go straight into step 3. We want to gather our x's on one side and everything else on the other. So I'm going to start by subtracting 4x from both sides. And that would leave me with 4x minus 3 equals 17. And then I'm going to add 3 to both sides to move that 3 over so that only the x's are on the left. And so now I've got 4x equals 20. And we can divide both sides by 4. And that leaves us with x equals 5. So now we can check our work and see if the left side equals the right side. So we get 8 times 5 minus 3 on the left, which is 40 minus 3, or 37. And on the right, we have 4 times 5 plus 17, which would be 20 plus 17. So we get 37. So yes, that makes sense. All right. Next up, again, we don't need to do step 1 or 2. We can start with step 3 and gather our x's on one side and everything else on the other. So to do so, I'm going to subtract x from both sides, leaving me with 3x minus 8 equals negative 14. And then I want to gather my numbers on the right, so I'm going to add 8 to both sides. So I get 3x equals negative 6. Then step 4, I need to isolate my variable. So to do that, I'm going to divide both sides by 3, which leaves me with an answer of x equals negative 2. And let's check our work. So on the right, we'll have 4 times negative 2 minus 8. And on the left, and on the right, we'll have negative 2 minus 14. So we get negative 8 minus 8, which is negative 16. And we also get negative 16 on the right, which is what we were hoping for. So yes, that makes sense. All right, the next ones are much the same, but involve fractions. Go ahead and give these ones a try by pausing the video. Okay, let's do these together now. So we don't need to do step 1 or 2. We don't have any brackets or like terms. So I'm going to start by gathering my x's on one side and everything else on the other by adding 3 to both sides. That leaves me with x over 5 equals 7. I want just one x, so to get that, maybe I'll do it in another line here, just for the notes. So to get just a single x, I want to multiply by 5, or 5 over 1, as you wish, same thing. Okay, and so then that leaves me, these 5's cancel, and I'm left with x equals 35. And don't forget to check your work. And so we are saying on the left, we have 35 over 5 minus 3. And on the right, we have 4. So we get 7 minus 3, which is 4. And that checks out. All right, next one. Again, we don't have to worry about steps 1 and 2, but we do want to gather our everything else on the right since our x's are already on the left. So to do that, I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. That leaves me with 2x over 3 equals 8. Now we want a single x, so let's multiply by the reciprocal. So we're going to multiply both sides by 3 over 2. Remember, this 8 on the right is really an 8 over 1. Because if we do that, our 3's and our 2's are going to cancel on the left, leaving us with a single x. So we get x is 24 over 2, which is x is 12. Okay, and we can check our answer. So on the left, we would have 2 times 12 over 3 plus 5. And on the right, we have 13. So we've got 24 over 3, which is 8 plus 5, which, yes, is 13. So we know we did it correctly. All right, last one here. We want to gather our x's on one side, everything else on the other. I'm going to gather my x's on the left by subtracting 7x from both sides. It's okay if you did it in a different way. So I get negative 3x minus 8 equals positive 7. And then I'm going to add 8 to both sides to move that number over to the right. So I get negative 3x equals 15. Now I want to isolate my variable, so I have just a single x. So to do so, I'm going to divide both sides by negative 3 so that my negative 3's cancel on the left, and I'm left with x equals negative 5. So let's check our work. So on the left, we have 4 times negative 5 minus 8. And on the right, we have 7 times negative 5 plus 7. So we've got negative 20 minus 8 is negative 28. And hopefully we get the same thing on the left. So we've got negative 35 plus 7, which, yes, is negative 28. So we know we did it correctly.